Because they didn't learn Kabbalah. Because according to Kabbalah, it has to be literal. Because the 6 days of creation are rooted in the 6 spheres, and they're Misuyam. They're very specific. And the 6,000 years, as the Vilna Gaon pointed out in the 1700s, they all emerge from the 6 days of creation. And whatever happened during the 6 days of creation is going to happen similarly during a corresponding period of time. So you have one day, 24 hours long, corresponding to 1,000 years. So if you wanted to know what 1 hour of one day equals to, you divide 1,000 years by 24. And that period of time is 43.66 years, except, again, Kabbalah explains that God didn't do any creating. Well, the truth is, Medrash mentions that. Didn't do any creating during the nighttime hours, only during the daytime hours. So therefore, if you want to make the calculation, it has to be by 12. It's all mentioned in the books that I've written about the topic before. I can get more details. It's actually on the website for Shar Nun. But you divide by 12, which means 83.33 years. And you work at 83.33 years in every millennium, then you can figure out one hour of each millennium corresponds to during the days of creation. And the reason why is that important? Why is it, because history is about tikkun. That's what we've been saying the entire time. Tikkun is about revealing God, and history is about tikkun. So tikkun means you have to know what you're fixing up. Well, the last thing we really broke was the Eitz Das Tov Ra. But I was a thing in the past. No, that's going to come back again. Because as the Vilna Gaon says, whatever happened back then, it comes again in history. And that's the most important event to rectify. Well, what is it? Where is it? So you make the calculation, and it turns out that as of 1990, we entered the period of time that corresponds to the 10th hour of day 6, when Adam Harishon ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so you say to yourself, okay, well, so what would that possibly be in 1990? And lo and behold, technology obliges us by coming up with the World Wide Web, which everybody has agreed is literally a virtual Eitzadas Tova. There's been nothing in history that corresponds to the tree of knowledge of good and evil better than the internet. So is that just a metaphor? Is that just an idea that's not really based in it? No, the energy, the spiritual material to create the internet, make it possible, was not technology. Technology was the means, but the energy in the universe that made technology come up with the idea so that we would have it exactly at that time goes back to day 6, when Adam ate from the Das Tavara. Who knows that? How many people know that? The most important event of all of history, after 5,750 years, no one has ever been in that period of time that corresponds to the sin of eating the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We're the first generation. Doesn't that mean something? It means everything. But again, that's Kabbalah. And concept after concept after concept after concept, that's where you find it. I cannot tell you, I cannot emphasize enough how many mind-bending ideas you find in the pages of the Zohar and the Arizal specifically, and the Leshem after that, and the Gra, the ideas, and you say to yourself, how can a person possibly live, let alone fix the world without knowing this information? So the Arizal says that's why right before Mashiach comes, the same well springs of knowledge and wisdom and chachma that Hashem opened up back at the beginning for the Rashbi, that he could have 10 students, that he could teach without being persecuted, and they could sit and they could learn and reveal the greatest secrets known to mankind, to the world, is going to happen again right before Mashiach comes. It won't happen in between that much, but it'll happen again right before Mashiach comes. And here we are sitting at the brink of the end of history. Now, the final redemption just around the corner. And it's hard to believe if you don't learn Kabbalah. Because in Kabbalah, you learn about things like how the 6th millennium corresponds to the sphere of Yesod. And the sphere of Yesod apparently has 2 parts to it. What's called the Yesod it's Kabbalistic terminology. But when you translate it into everyday life, it means that for the first part of the 6th millennium, There's going to be persecution, exile, all those things. But by definition, regardless of what we're doing and what we're holding, at a certain moment in the course of that 6th millennium, about 2/3 into it, that's when it has to transfer over to the Messianic era. And it's a bit, I'm looking around, see, where's Mashiach? So I always remind people that Moshe Rabbeinu, the first one, who's going to be the last one too, by the way, but the first one was walking the face of the earth for 79 years. In the course of those 79 years, they were using children for mortar to build buildings in Egypt. And during those 79 years, and he was forced to run for his life, and he had to struggle too. Yisro put him into a pit for 10 years because he thought he was a fugitive. But during that, it was all the Messianic era, the entire time. And then at the end, in his 80th year, when he finally was sent by Kodesh Baruch Hu, so then we realized at that point in time, oh, when he was born, that was the beginning, but only retroactively, again, through the lens of Kabbalah. So I hope I've made somewhat of a point, the importance of knowing it, even for those people who think it's a million miles away, right? Why it's so important, why it's not just some pipe dream, why it's not just some, mystical, notion of how history should go, but really it is its mainstream thinking as it's going to get, because when a Kodesh Baruch Hu finally does reveal himself, the greatest Kabbalistic experience and Kabbalistic shiur that ever took place was at Mount Sinai. Because there's nothing more Kabbalistic than the revelation of Kodesh Baruch Hu. And when Hashem revealed himself and spoke, that the Jewish people actually heard God speak, it doesn't get more Kabbalistic than that. And then we rejected it. We went downhill, we lost it in persecution, assimilation, history got in the way for a long time, but it's going to come back. When Mashiach comes, there's going to be a major transformation that's so dramatic that according to the Zohar, some people will just die from the shock of it. It'd just be too overwhelming for them. There might be ecstasy, but they'll still drop dead from the shock of it. Kabbalah is how we prepare for that. And the deeper and more profound our understanding of the world and how it works is, the more prepared, the better a container for the light of God we become, and therefore we can access even higher levels of light. The book that I hope to send you, B'ezras Hashem, but I need your addresses if you haven't sent them to me yet. We'll go into more of these ideas and explain actually how to apply it in everyday life. God willing, hopefully you'll start seeing on my site some of this information more directly that will actually explain a lot of these concepts, hopefully more detail.